What's up, everybody? Today we get to continue our quest in trying to beat every scenario in the game on heroic difficulty. And today we have the challenge of taking on one of the harder scenarios in all of Marvel Champions, which is Venom Goblin. Venom Goblin is the last villain in the Sinister Motives box, the end boss, if you will. And today we'll be playing a Nova Justice deck to try to abuse the fact that there's these three main schemes. And so we'll have a lot of cards that help us handle these multiple schemes, as well as Nova's Unleash. Nova Force is very good against the multiple schemes. So you can skip right to the gameplay if that's what you're interested in, but if you're interested in kind of learning about the Venom Goblin scenario, how you might take him down yourself, I will do a scenario breakdown here first. I'll then do a deck breakdown, so you could jump there if you just want to see the deck we'll be playing. But otherwise, we'll get right into it. So with Venom Goblin, we have these three main schemes, as I mentioned. And after Venom Goblin activates, we move a counter called the Glider counter to one of the main schemes with the least threat, and then resolve its special ability. So each of these Lower Midtown and Upper Manhattan has some special ability, which gives us some additional negative effect after Venom Goblin activates, and that can be from a scheme or from an attack. On Lower Manhattan, we place one threat on every scheme in play. If Midtown Manhattan is selected, we take 2 indirect damage, and Upper Manhattan, we discard 1 card from hand. They also have this text: if a symbiote environment is in play, discard or do something else. Here, discard the top 4 cards of your deck, take 1 additional indirect damage, or place an additional threat on this scheme. And how does a symbiote environment get in play? Well, if any of these are defeated, they will flip over into a symbiote environment. And then we lose the game once there are 2 symbiote environments in play. So the bad news is that each of them gets a threat every turn. So there's a lot of thwarting we have to do throughout the game. But the good news is that the glider counter generally moves to wherever the least threat is, and that's where Venom adds scheme if he thwarts. So the counter is always kind of moving to the one with the least scheme, so we're at less risk of kind of going from 0 to 10 or 0 to 11 all in one turn. But that being said, it's still very difficult. Venom's activation's probably the worst villain activation in the game because of this additional ability. That might not be exactly accurate, but it's kind of how I think of it, and none others come to mind. But anyways, so that is kind of a very loud part of this scenario. Another thing that makes Venom Goblin so brutal is when stage 2 is revealed, we deal 2 encounter cards to the first player, or just ourselves in solo. And when stage 3 is revealed, we deal 3 encounter cards. So as if the ongoing pace of encounter cards and activations wasn't bad enough, we get these 2 bursts of encounter card chains throughout the game, which can be really, really brutal. If we take a look at the encounter cards, we're just doing the recommended mod sets today. We've got Symbiotic Strength, which is actually a required set, as well as Goblin Gear. So if we look at the scenario as a whole, we have a handful of attachments to Venom Goblin. The main one to point out if you're going to build your deck towards beating Venom Goblin is the Advanced Glider. This is a very unique hero action attached to it, where we can discard attack cards from our hand with a combined resource cost of 3 or more to discard it. Now that's something that, depending on your hero, you don't even have a single 3-cost attack in your hand. And then even if you've got some 1 or 2 cost attacks, you would need to draw multiple of them at the same time to be able to discard the glider. So this is something where if you're really trying to beat Venom Goblin, I would put some cards in your deck just for the purpose of being able to discard the Advanced Glider. And in the Goblin Gear set, we also have remote navigation, which will search up and find Advanced Glider. And what does it actually do? Well, basically after Venom Goblin activates, it activates us again. So we already talked about how bad Venom Goblin's activation is. So activating twice is as bad as you can imagine. All right, We Are One is a pretty nasty attachment. We definitely want to get rid of it when we can. but it's just a straight attack buff, no overkill or anything. So as long as we've got allies to block, we're not in as much of a rush if we're entering the villain phase in hero form. In Alter Ego, that +3 scheme is really a lot, so we do want to avoid that. There's actually quite a lot of minions in this scenario, which does make it easier. Minions generally, you can take a little bit more time with answering them, especially a lot of these ones have very low scheme. Symbiotic monstrosity is quite a tough one. It's got toughness 6 health, retaliate 1, so usually might take a little bit to kill. But these other ones aren't so bad. 5 health, 4 health, 2 health on the enraged symbiotes, but they do put themselves into play off a boost ability, which is quite bad if that happens to us. But we do love to draw them as our encounter cards for turn. Another card to just kind of be aware of as we're playing this scenario is Swinging Assault. Has the ability to switch us from Alter Ego to hero form, and then the villain attacks us. So always have to have our guard up a little bit, even in Alter Ego. A handful of side schemes here, a few with hazard icons, so want to make sure we can really clear those right away, especially Limitless Supply, which gives tech attachments surge. So all of the Goblin gear, bomb attachments here, as well as the glider, are all tech attachments. So really need to clear that ASAP when it comes out. Now another thing I would strategize when playing against Venom Goblin is to kind of have at least one of these special abilities in mind that that you sort of want to plan towards. So for example, if you plan to trigger Lower Manhattan a lot and place lots of threat on your schemes, bring a deck that's really good at thwarting so that you don't feel so bad about doing that. Or if you want to maybe use Midtown Manhattan taking indirect damage, you can play, Downtime, some more recovery cards, Crew Quarters, and that way you can sort of just keep pressing this button and kind of maintain your health total throughout the game. So in this scenario, we're playing Nova Justice, and so we're going to be going to Lower Manhattan quite a bit is the plan, because we'll bring a lot of thwarting in the deck to be able to thwart down all these schemes. Okay, I think that's about all I have to say about that. Let us take a look at the Nova deck and see how we're tackling these multiple schemes, the advanced glider, and all these minions. Let's have a look. So here is the Nova Justice deck we'll be playing today against the Venom Goblin scenario on heroic difficulty. Nova is a hero who I think got lost a little bit directly between the Web Warrior cycle and the first X-Men cycle. The champions didn't get a ton of love, but he is sort of a sleeper pick for one of, I think, the best heroes in the game. His Unleash Nova Force card is really strong, which we'll talk about here, and as well as the helmet, which he gets to use twice per turn and can start the game without almost for free, gives him tremendous resource generation. And so then any sort of archetype that you want to stick to him, he'll have tons and tons of resources to help power that through. And because of this Unleash Nova Force, works really well against the Venom Goblin scenario with 3 main schemes. So I'll just read it. I'll read it out loud here because it's such an important card for Nova and for this scenario. Until the end of the round, each time Nova defeats an enemy or removes the last threat from a scheme, ready Nova and draw a card. And so the other thing I should just mention right away is Nova. After Nova uses one of his basic powers, we ready Supernova Helmet, which generates a wild resource. So this ready from Unleash Nova Force, not only is it a ready for a basic power and drawing a card, but it also represents a resource from Supernova Helmet, because by readying Nova, we get another use to ready the helmet. So the main scheme, right? The main scheme is always there for us to remove threat from. But in the case of the Venom Goblin scenario, there's 3 main schemes. So this, just kind of as a baseline, Unleash Nova Force is going to let us draw 3 cards, ready 3 times, and just be a phenomenally powerful card. The other thing that makes Nova really strong, I think, and again, just being overshadowed as these X-Men heroes come out, is the addition of these player side schemes to the game. So this gives us, even if the scenario, this is a little bit scenario dependent, how many side schemes and minions the scenario is throwing at us. But we can play, 3, in some cases more, side schemes of our own that sort of get their value back when we clear them on an Unleash Nova Force turn. So these are really, really strong with Nova and help enable some of our biggest combo turns. So if we look at the rest of the deck, like I mentioned in the deck breakdown, or in the scenario breakdown, it's tons and tons of thwarting. Thwarting because there's just a lot of thwarting to do in general with the 3 main schemes, but also because we want to make sure we can clear all 3 of them any turn that we're playing Unleash Nova Force. And on top of that, we're playing a lot of cards that take advantage of multiple schemes being out. So multitasking doesn't always justify itself in the deck because you're not always going to have 2 different schemes out for you to thwart. But here in this case, we'll always have at least 2. Overwatch as well. The most on-rate, just efficient thwarter in the game. For a cost of just a single card, it usually represents at least 2 threat removed. When the scheme that it's attached to gets thwarted, we pop the Overwatch to thwart that amount from a different scheme. So easily can be 2 with multitasking or clear the area. Often in our case will be 3 with light speed flight. And even that alone, just playing 1 card to thwart for 2 or 3, that's the kind of efficiency that we really need to look for in these heroic games where we need to squeeze everything that we can out of our card slots. So there's kind of the thwarting package. We've got Go for Champions. So I want to mention this because Go for Champions is a card, one of the only erratas that has been issued in the history of Marvel Champions. It's been errated to say that after you play it, you remove it from the game. This was really, really important for multiplayer games, but even in single player, being able to play this multiple times a game is just an incredibly strong card. It says that you can't take damage. Each champion character in play cannot take damage until the end of the round. So that completely whiffs a villain attack, any encounter cards that give an additional attack or do damage. Champion allies don't take consequential damage. Just a really, really strong ability. And it lines up really well against Venom Goblin, because the turn that we flip to Venom Goblin stage 3, we're going to be getting at least 5 encounter cards plus Venom Goblin's regular activation. 3 from the reveal of Venom Goblin stage 3, and then the 2 for heroic difficulty. So we're basically going to save this for the turn that we flip to Venom Goblin stage 3. And then it'll be removed from the game, but that's kind of the most obvious turn that we'll want to have that used. In just your own games, you can play with or without the errata as you want, but I like to keep my games just what I enjoy. I like to keep it as official as possible to the current rules reference. Skilled Investigator, solid, just value generation card. Costs 1 card from hand, but easily will draw us 3 to 6, cards throughout the course of the game. Stealth Strike. So this is a card that I definitely would not play just for the effect of the card. But if you watched our scenario breakdown, you know about the Advanced Glider, which requires us to discard attacks from hand with total resource cost of 3 or more. And Nova is pretty bad at this. We've got Pot Shot, which costs 2, so we'd need to draw exactly 2 of those. So with Stealth Strike, we have a 3-cost attack that we can discard to satisfy that requirement of Advanced Glider as soon as we can. So 2, I think, is a happy medium. 1 might be too hard to find. 3 would be a little excessive because we're not really looking to play the card that often from hand. But with Unleash Nova Force and the amount of card draw that we have, I think 2 is a decent number. Looking at our allies, picked a handful of champions to help combo with the Go for Champions. But generally just kind of the individually strong cards. Moon Girl, extremely strong because of the wild resource from Supernova Helmet, wild resources from Connection to the World Mind. Very easy to play her with 3, basically almost always 2, but very often 3 mental resources to draw 3 cards after playing her. Really good value. Miss Marvel, I should mention, is eroded as well. After we play an event, we can exhaust her, deal her 1 damage to return that event to your hand. It was changed that we must return that event to your hand from the discard pile. So the only thing this really changes, at least in our scenario, is the Go for Champions. So because this removes from the game, it does not go to the discard pile. We cannot use Miss Marvel to just play Go for Champions every single turn, which was the most broken thing that you could do in all of Marvel Champions. Basically, for the rest of the game, never take damage. And so that has changed, so note that we cannot do that this game. Quasar, another card that just abuses the multiple main schemes here. Enters play, removes 1 threat from each scheme. So a clean sweep of 3 main schemes plus any side schemes that might be in play. Really high value card. Nick Fury, just a great card in general. Most of the game we'll use the draw 3 mode. Between Nick Fury, Moon Girl, Skilled Investigator, we've got a lot of card draw in this deck. And that is something I really wanted to help us see Unleash Nova Force as many turns as possible. Clear the area does some nice card draw as well. Ironheart, just a great ally on rate, helps with the card draw. Wasp, probably the worst one, but Wasp does something very interesting for us, where Wasp has 1 attack, so when enraged symbiotes come out on an Unleash Nova Force turn, we can attack them for 1 with Wasp and then kill them with Nova. Those are one of the most annoying cards for Nova because it's hard for him to kill the enraged symbiotes on an Unleash Nova Force turn without sort of overkilling them with a pot shot. I don't know, it's extremely minor, but these are the kind of things that just excite me a little bit. And then Spider-Man Miles, a champion and just a phenomenal card on rate. Lastly, I want to call out these player side schemes, like I kind of alluded to, something that gives Nova a lot of power because of this Unleash Nova Force. Generation X, brand new card from Jubilee's pack. When defeated, each player can search up an identity-specific event and add it to hand. So because our strategy relies so much on Unleash Nova Force, basically acts as a 3rd copy, helping us find it on a turn we might not otherwise have it. Specialized Training, this is one of our most important setup cards to complete in one of the early turns of the game. There are 4 different specializations we can get, but I don't really see myself getting anything besides the Surveillance Specialist, giving us extra thwart for all the thwarting we plan to do this scenario. Lets us draw a card every turn. Really, really, really strong card, and given the amount of thwarting we have, not asking us to do too much to complete this, even though it does have a kind of high starting threat of 5. Build support, I just wanted another player side scheme, so it's better than the other options. I'm using it to get Quinn Carrier, just acting as another wild resource generator. Note that build support does get around any play restrictions like Quinn Carrier has, where we need to be an Avenger. But if we defeat build support, we can just put this straight into play from our deck or discard pile. So there we go, every card in the deck. Yeah, it's a lot of thwarting. We talked about the game plan. We've got some specific tech in here for the Venom Goblin scenario as well. So should be a really exciting match with lots of action. And let's see how it goes. All right, as I finish shuffling up here, I want to mention this is the 5th and final scenario of the Sinister Motives box. We've been going through all the scenarios and playing them on heroic difficulty using a different hero. And also throughout the box, now having played Justice with Nova, I've used each aspect at least once. So this is a challenge I made for myself called Heroic Roulette, and I made a video kind of explaining it a bit more, but I think it's kind of a fun way to frame my games and something you might be interested in as well. Kind of gives you that sort of puzzle sense of putting scenarios together, and then a good sense of achievement for kind of cracking the puzzle and figuring out the right matchups, but still getting every aspect involved. So once I finish shuffling here, we'll deal ourselves 2 encounter cards from Venom Goblin's stage 2 when revealed ability. Now we'll shuffle ourselves. We start with our 3 main schemes in play. Glider counter starts on Midtown Manhattan. A little bit of threat on Midtown and lower to start the game. In our opening hand, we're going to look for a wild resource to help us go get the helmet for only a single resource. And then just some of our setup cards, definitely an ally to block with on this first turn. Okay, so we like to see Unleash Nova Force, probably play that on this first turn. I do like Moon Girl, although the most mental resources I can keep in hand right now is just the 1. So I might not keep her. Or I might keep her but discard the mental resource. Well, even if we draw 2 after playing her, it's still a great play. So let's keep her with 1 mental resource, the Unleash. And so send back 3 and draw 3. Okay, with Connection to the World Mind, we get to go up to 7 cards. All right, and this will be kind of a nice starting turn here. We'll spend the wild to go find the helmet. And then I'll shortcut the shuffling a little because I want to pay 2 for Jesse and then activate, which reshuffles that connection back into our deck, and we'll draw a card. Okay, flip to hero form. So we could pick between Nick Fury and the helmet here, although I guess and Moon Girl, but I guess they kind of are the same, right? They both will draw 3 cards, activate once, and block. So in that case, we might as well go with Moon Girl. So we'll spend the helmet as a mental. Do I ever end up playing Nick and Moon Girl? Probably not. Spend Nick as a mental and Lightspeed Flight as a mental for Moon Girl. Draw 3 cards. All right, so got the ability to clear specialized training here. By using Moon Girl plus Lightspeed Flight. Pay 1 for specialized training. Thwart it for 2 with Moon Girl. Yeah, it's just a little awkward. I don't get to play this if I want to play Unleash Nova Force this turn. Actually, I could have done that a little differently. Hold on just a second. Right, I just spent that for that. So if I play Unleash first, I could... Yeah, we'll play Unleash first. So pay 1 for Unleash. So whenever we defeat an enemy or remove the last threat from a scheme, ready Nova and draw a card. So now I will thwart Lower Manhattan, removes the last threat from a scheme, so we'll ready and draw. Then after we use a basic power, we also get to ready the helmet. So now we'll pay one, newly drawn one card for specialized training. Use Moon Girl again to thwart it for 2. So then we've got the light speed flight to clear it, but we might as well exhaust Nova first to do something. So let's attack Venom Goblin for 1. Guess that does waste ready, that's fine. To play Skilled Investigator. Then thwart Specialized Training for 3. So that goes to the victory display. We'll get Surveillance Specialist. I think this one is reasonable, the attack one is reasonable, but thwart is gonna be our most common basic power throughout the game. So we'll get the most value out of that +1 thwart buff. And of course draw an extra card every turn. So by removing the last threat from a scheme, we'll ready and draw. With Skilled Investigator, we'll draw. Nova will now be able to thwart for 2 on Midtown Manhattan. So ready and draw. Ready the Supernova helmet and draw for thwarting. All right, good to see our next Unleash Nova Force for next turn. So it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to play Go for Champions, but I typically like to save that for when we go to Venom Goblin Stage 3. So let's just get an Overwatch out here. And we might as well Pot Shot. Or we could save Pot Shot for a minion. Guess we didn't see either other Pot Shot yet. Oh, we did see one other one. So we can either spend it now to push a little more damage or just have it in reserve for a minion, which we might not necessarily be able to kill. If my practice matches have taught me anything, it's to be a little more conservative. So I'm just going to attack Venom Goblin for 1. And discard Go for Champions at end of turn. Just because we don't want to play it and we'd rather keep drawing through the deck to see our Unleash Nova Forces again sooner. All right, step 1 of the villain phase, put 1 on each main scheme. Venom Goblin attacks, Moon Girl blocks. No boost effect. We trigger Venom Goblin's forced response. So we're gonna move to Lower Manhattan and put 1 threat on each scheme. This, because we're at 2 thwart now, we can easily still clear each of them once. So happy to put our first use there. And then the onslaught of encounter cards begins. Okay, there's a perfect minion to Pot Shot. Another minion. Okay, we resolve the special ability of the glider counter, and then this surges into another side scheme, treated as a symbiote environment, while there are no other symbiote environments in play. Give the villain 1 face down boost card and surge. Ooh, and unluckily gets us to an attack. We do have force field projection though, so that will be actually a good way to make sure we can clear one of these minions. So we don't have any ally to block the attack, so it's just going to come in for the full 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll force field projection to block 3 of that and take 4. Then do 3 damage to one of these minions. And then after that, we need to move the glider counter somewhere, noting that there is a symbiote environment in play. So I think I'm all right to do this one. We'll discard a card from hand. Queen Carrier is, we can't play it from hand anyways. But then the symbiote rider is just to discard 4 cards from deck, which will actually get us back to our Unleash Nova Forces faster. And I like it better than just taking 1 indirect damage. Okay. So let's thwart something first so we can draw. Thwart this festering mass. So draw a card, ready the helmet. Quasar is super interesting here because it would let me hit each of these for just 2, but then I wouldn't have been able to play. I need these resources still to play Unleash. So unfortunately, just spending Quasar to play Unleash. Now we can start going to town. So Supernova Helmet makes a wild for pot shot on this symbiotic thrall. So defeating a minion, we ready and draw. We'll attack this minion, dealing it the last point of damage. Ready and draw. I'm going to thwart Lower Manhattan for 2. And pop the Overwatch to thwart Festering Mass for 2. Which readies the helmet. Pay 1 for clear the area on Festering Mass. So defeating a side scheme, ready and draw a card. Defeating a side scheme, we draw off of Skilled Investigator. Ooh, multitasking is nice here. We'll thwart this down. Ready the helmet. Ready and draw. I'll do my hand over here. Pay 1 for build support. Thwart it for 2. Ready. Make a mental for multitasking. So we'll hit 2 here and 2 here. So defeating build support, we ready and draw, and then we get our Queen Carrier support as our completion reward. Finally starting to run out of gas a little bit here. Okay, if I use the Overwatch here, I can still clear both of these. So put Overwatch here, thwart this for 2, trigger Overwatch to clear off this. Did I forget to ready the helmet here? Yeah, that was just a regular thwart. But then we cleared that, so with the Overwatch, so ready and draw. Okay, even get to clear the area here, so we'll attack Venom Goblin for, whoops, yep. Attack Venom Goblin for 1. So even if we weren't supposed to ready it there, it would be ready now and we didn't use it. Pay 1 for clear the area on Upper Manhattan. So ready, draw for Unleash Nova Force and draw for clear the area. Let's pay 2 for Ironheart and draw. And now we've basically fizzled out here. I'm going to keep these in hand just because, well, actually, we'll redraw it next turn, guaranteed anyways. So we'll spend a wild to pot shot Venom Goblin for 4. Flip to Alter Ego, recover for 3. We'll save Ironheart's use in case we just need it, the extra 1 point to help clear something next turn. Activate Jesse. And then I'm going to discard this Genius at end of turn. We really need to get back to our Unleash Nova Forces, right? Because we're fortunate to get them off on turns 1 and 2, but now we really need to still see them every turn, so churning through our deck as much as we can. All right, that ends the turn. So we will run through our deck, so give ourselves an extra encounter card. We're pretty much all the way set up now. We've got both our supports in play. Skilled Investigator, got our specialization upgrade. I think the only piece we're kind of missing is Miss Marvel, who helps us kind of close the door once we are ready to advance to Venom Goblin Stage 3. All right, so we're gonna get up to an 8-card hand here. Okay, that is very lucky there to see it in the top 3 cards. Granted, we were going to draw, at least 1, 2, 3 more cards if we didn't see it right away, but this is, yeah, definitely lucky, but, yeah, I mean, it's, we shuffled. Okay. Step 1, 1 threat on each main scheme. Venom Goblin schemes for 1, 2, 3, 4. Let us move the glider counter. I think same logic as before, kind of. We'll go here, just since we're pretty solid on thwarting. And then 2 more encounter cards. Okay, next 2 attacks will take an extra 2 indirect damage. Another Thrall And, wow, very minion heavy, really minion heavy opening turns here, which is definitely good for us. So, yeah, this is really good. Let's spend 3 for Spider-Man. We'll go plus to the attack for the round. Activate Jesse. Shuffle in Connection. Basically, this will let us do 4 damage to Berserker, and then Nova can finish it off. Expecting to draw into plenty of our thwart cards to clear all of the main schemes. Yeah, this turn, I think, yeah, we're just having another great setup turn, get some allies in play, hopefully Miss Marvel. So that was our reshuffle, then we draw. Let's pay 1 for Unleash Nova Force. Attack this Berserker for 4. Finish it off with Nova. Ready both and draw. There's Miss Marvel. Let's thwart this for 2. Sorry. See if we can spend this helmet first on something. We can just play Miss Marvel now. One, 2, 3 to play Miss Marvel. Thwart Upper Manhattan for 2. Draw a card. Ready's the helmet. Pay 1 for Pot Shot on Symbiotic Thrall. Ready and draw. Thwart Lower Manhattan for 2. Ready, ready, draw. So we could look towards advancing this turn. I don't want to advance if we don't have Go for Champions at the ready. So still a decent chance we can draw into it. Okay, let us attack for 1. Gonna waste some helmet usage here, but resources really isn't the bottleneck for us. So clear the area on Midtown Manhattan. Ready, draw. Thwart for 2. Play multitasking. Ready and draw. So now we've hit the end of our card draw. Yeah, I mean, in theory, we could maybe get to 11 damage by bouncing the Stealth Strike. Actually, I don't even know if that maths out, but we'll do a bit more damage and leave ourselves in a good place for next turn. So attack for 1. Ready the helmet. So we'll pay 1. Actually, is it crazy to... because we haven't drawn the advanced glider yet, so a decent chance it comes out soon. There is another stealth strike in the deck, which we could well draw into. I'm not going to worry about holding on to it right now. So pay 1, 2, 3 for stealth strike, 4 damage to Venom Goblin. Stick an Overwatch somewhere. Keep these in hand because they don't take up the hand size. I do want to be able to block with Ironheart here. So let's attack for 1. And that'll end our turn. Really want to save Miss Marvel's uses for her ability to return events to our hand. Okay, didn't draw back to Unleash yet, but just a ton of draw in this hand, so very hopeful we'll get back there. Start with 1 on each main scheme. Venom Goblin attacks, Ironheart blocks, coming in for 4 plus 0. Incendiary bombs will do us 2 indirect damage. So I'll just take it both. And then we'll move the glider counter. So I could move it here and take the indirect damage again. Put 1 on Miles, 1 on ourselves. Ready up Miles to block this next attack that could well be coming. Otherwise it's discarding a card from hand. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna discard a card from hand, I think. This multitasking. Won't be needing to play that most likely. All right, and only 2 encounter cards this turn. All right, it's going to block our next 2 attacks. And then Enraged Symbiote, a very, very small minion. Okay, so I want to start with Moon Girl. So let's go 1, 2, obviously mental. Yeah, we'll use a connection. Mental for Moon Girl. So draw 3. So Generation X could let us go and get Unleash Nova Force right now. It's not the best turn ever to do that, so maybe we just set it for next turn. I kind of just want to set it for next turn. I think there's not a ton more setup to do. We'll still be able to clear everything. Yeah, it kind of works out. This turn to flip to Alter Ego. Have another turn. Next turn, go to Hero form, play Go for Champions. As we flip, take a bunch of negate a bunch of damage and just keep rolling from there. To play that out. I mean, we could draw. Let's go for Champions. No, because I want to go to Alter Ego form anyways. Although maybe, because we've got Miss Marvel, so I could just bounce Unleash Nova Force once I draw it. 11 cards in deck to find Go for Champions. Now I'm gonna slow roll it again here. So we'll try to attack. That'll pop Webbed Up. We become stunned. Spend a wild. Well, maybe we don't need to spend a wild here. Let's have Spider-Man attack and kill the enraged symbiote. Pay Stealth Strike for clear the area. We'll go here. Yeah. Which draws us a card. Okay, maybe I do just play Quasar here. Sacrifice Moon Girl. Or I do want to play this Pot Shot as well. Yeah, I guess we won't keep connection, but that's fine. Okay. Pay wild for Pot Shot, targeting Venom Goblin, but just remove the stun. I can go to Alter Ego, activate Jesse. And draw. Spend 3. Oh no, sorry. So first, Moon Girl, thwart for 2. Because we will be at our ally limit, so we'll pay 3 for Quasar and ditch Moon Girl. When he enters, remove. Oh shoot, that clears. Okay, I didn't mean for that to clear. Generation X. Let me think about that again. So I guess I'll just attack Venom Goblin with Moon Girl. Then he'll take 2. Then we'll do that. Removing 1 threat from each scheme. Stick an Overwatch here. So lots of thwarting for next turn. We'll have an Unleash active and plan to advance to Venom Goblin stage 3 and hope we can win fast enough. Okay, there's the Go for Champions. So we start with 1 threat on each main scheme. Venom Goblin schemes for 2 plus 3. There's 1 way to get the glider gone. So 5. We'll swing this over here, put 1 threat on everything, which does include our player side scheme, unfortunately, but I'm still not concerned with that. 2 encounter cards. Shadow of the Past. As I mentioned in my scenario breakdown, this is probably the hero that we're least sad to see Shadow of the Past, because it's 2 things to clear and draw cards with using Unleash Nova Force. All my cards have kind of crept up from what I usually do. So Bring the War makes us discard a card we control with a printed wild resource, but we don't have any. And as I read that, yeah, right, because I mean, it feels like it's supposed to discard the helmet, but when we talk about printed resources, we think about what they generate at the bottom of the card. So even though this has the wild symbol in there, if I'm wrong about that, it's not a big deal. Basically, it would get discarded and I'd spend a single resource to bring it back. So feel free to call me out on that if that's wrong, but it's not how I interpret it. And then our second card, another side scheme for us to defeat. Gives Tech Attachment Surge. So glad to draw that as our... That would be a really bad one to draw this next turn as we get our chain of 5 encounter cards. All right, we'll start with being an alter ego. We'll use Jesse. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7 things to clear and draw with Unleash Nova Force this turn. Be very, very strong. And I do want to recover. We'll have plenty of activations this turn. So just give ourselves as much cushion as possible. Oh, and we'll draw a card off of defeating Venom Goblin Stage 2 this round. So now we can go to hero form. Gotta clear this Generation X first to get our Unleash Nova Force. So Lightspeed Flight on Generation X. It's an X-Men card, but using it with our champion today. So when defeated, each player can search deck and discard for identity-specific event and add it to hand. So we'll get an Unleash Nova Force. And did we still have one in the deck? We did still have one in the deck. But I'd rather get the one from discard because we'll draw that one and be able to hang on to it for next turn. So we'll spend 1 for Unleash Nova Force. Not going to put it out here just so I don't forget about it when we reshuffle the deck imminently. And then to start the chain going, we will pay 1 of these resources to clear the area. Probably not playing another ally. Pay Nick to clear the area on Bring the War. So defeating that, we already draw, plus draw again from Skilled Investigator. All right, and that pot shot's nice, gonna help us kill Warbringer. Let's attack Warbringer for 1. Ready the helmet. Use the helmet to pot shot. Ready and draw. Let's thwart Limitless Supply. Draw from Specialist. We'll go through our deck. See there, Unleash Nova Force was the very bottom card. So as easy as this has kind of looked, Venom Goblin Stage 3 is kind of a new game entirely. We'll get a big chain of encounter cards. If he gets the glider in there and that triggers multiple activations, got to trigger these special abilities multiple times. Bad things can happen. And then if we can't close the door quickly, Venom Goblin does have bigger stats, and his forced response puts an extra threat on the scheme with the glider counter, so it's going well, but very far from guaranteed. Okay, so we just thwarted that, drew, and reshuffled. That was a basic thwart, so we'll ready Supernova Helmet. Pay a wild, we will Lightspeed Flight here, trigger Overwatch to hit the Limitless Supply. So by defeating that, we'll ready and draw. Okay, let's play out this Go for Champions. So 1, 2, 3 for Go for Champions. If you missed my deck breakdown, we are playing with the Errata today, so this will remove from the game after being played. Like I did with the Nova Force, I'll just leave it out here to remind ourselves that it's active. This will stop our champion characters from taking damage here. So we'll start by using Miles to, or no, actually Quasar. We'll attack Venom Goblin for 2. And then Nova will finish off stage 2. So this does count as defeating an enemy, so we get to ready and draw from Unleash Nova Force. Then we reveal stage 3, deal 3 encounter cards. And would normally retaliate, but because we played Go for Champions, it will not. And comes in with 21 health. Okay, so we actually can push a decent amount more damage here. We'll attack Venom Goblin, which removes the tough, and readies the helmet. Pay 1 for clear the area. Debating if I want to use up the Overwatch here. Or is this a reasonable time to use Miss Marvel? Yeah, I think I'm going to use Miss Marvel. I think I'm not going to use the Overwatch. This turn that we have coming could add lots and lots of threat, potentially, so just want to keep the Overwatch there to help answer that. So let's clear the area, Midtown Manhattan. So ready, draw, and draw from clear the area. Oh, so when do I have to decide that I'm using Miss Marvel? After you play an event. So I probably resolve everything from the event, no? Including the draw. Yeah, because that's like part of the event. So basically saying that because I've drawn this clear the area here, I don't actually want to return that to hand now. So drew 1 from clear the area, drawing 1 more from having unleashed Nova Force. I'm going to thwart this for 2. Ready the helmet. Spend the helmet for clear the area here. So we'll ready and draw 2, just like before. Don't want to use Miss Marvel there, especially now because we drew Pot Shot. We'll clear Lower Manhattan. Ready and draw. And now do a mess of damage. Let's Pot Shot Venom Goblin for 4. Return it to hand with Miss Marvel, who does not take damage because of Go for Champions. Attack Venom Goblin for 1. Ready the helmet. Attack with Miles, who also will not take damage because of Go for Champions. And my only debate here, I could do 8 more damage to Venom Goblin. My only debate is holding one of these in hand to be able to play it twice with Miss Marvel next turn. But I should be drawing into more, so... Right, this is only one pot shot. There's 2 pot shots left in the deck. We'll draw a ton of cards again. Just gonna play them both. So spend a wild for pot shot. And then we'll spend if I want to spend 3 for Stealth Strike, I need to basically not play Overwatch and then keep Unleash on hand. It's probably fine. Yeah. Spend 3 for Stealth Strike for 4 damage. So really just a really good alignment of encounter cards that turn, letting us draw, what did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Was there an 8th one in there? At least 7 things that we defeated that round. Plenty of cards in hand if we need to trigger this. Plenty of health if we need to trigger this. Feeling pretty good, as Go for Champions is still active going into this crucial villain phase. And yeah, this will basically be it, and I have a hard time imagining we won't win the game if we're able to survive this. So we're up to 7 cards because of those 2 connections to the World Mind. Obviously tons of damage, especially drawing the pot shot there. So let's get it going. 1 threat on each main scheme. Venom Goblin attacks. No need to block because we cannot take damage until the end of the round. So attack comes in, no boost abilities, no damage, pop incendiary bombs, take 2 indirect damage, again becomes 0. We will move the glider counter to Midtown Manhattan and take 0 indirect damage. Now 2 more cards dealt to us for a total of 6. And begin the chain. Hopefully we don't get the glider here super early. All right, Enraged Symbiote is fine. Here's a side scheme, going to move the glider token to the main scheme with the most threat, resolve its special ability. So we have our pick because they're tied. Let's, we'll put probably discard a card from hand. Because I think we are just completely... We'll probably end up doing a... Oh, I always forget this here. Okay. I know I said it out loud. So the first one we moved, when Venom Goblin attacked, we moved it here. So this needs to have one extra threat. But this is just resolving the... Oh, so actually... Oh, that is important that I caught it there. So when revealed, basically we cannot move it, but we still resolve the scheme special ability. We just do as much of it as we can. We can't do the move part, but we do this. So that actually works to our advantage because we'll take 0 indirect damage again. Let me know if I did that wrong, but that's how I interpret it based off of a rules check I did before the game. Right, this already has the most threat, so we can't move it. Same thing happens just from Venom Goblin's regular forced response. If the scheme it's already on has the least threat, it just doesn't move, but you still do the special. Okay, so there is that. All right, we've got another attack from Venom Goblin and minions. So the attack comes in for 3, reduced to 0. Now we move this. Let's move it. We'll move it here. Put a threat on everything. Plus an extra threat there. The symbiote attacks us for 0 damage. You may spend a wild resource. If you do not, the villain and Warbringer each attack you. So I will happily spend a wild resource to negate that. Venom Goblin schemes for 1, 2, 3, plus place 1 threat on each main scheme without the glider counter. So then schemes for 3 brings us up to 6. We trigger. Now this has uniquely the least amount of threat, so it gets 1 more threat, and we trigger the special, discard 1 card from hand. We'll discard Wasp. And last one, another copy of Ward Delivery, so we'll spend a wild resource. And so a coast to victory here, Quasar will deal 2 damage to Enraged Symbiote. We'll have Spider-Man attack Venom Goblin for 2. And then we'll pay 2 for a pot shot, dealing the final 4. All right, so we get to cap off the Sinister Motives box with a win against Venom Goblin on Heroic. Venom Goblin usually considered one of the harder scenarios in the game, but Nova really preys upon these 3 main schemes of Venom Goblin. So it doesn't quite feel that difficulty. And then Go for Champions is just kind of a cheat code against what's usually the hardest part of Venom Goblin, which is that flip to Villain Stage 3. So that lined up really well for us. We avoided some of the ways that we can get unlucky early in the game. Most of our encounter cards were just minions. And we had Unleash Nova Force basically every turn we wanted it. We just skipped it 1 turn because it wasn't going to be that great for us, and we were just setting up for the next turn. 1 turn it was on the bottom of the deck. Generation X played a great role in getting it to our hand so that we could have that turn where we really popped off last turn. So full disclosure, I did really want to get a recorded win of this scenario on my YouTube channel, but I will say that this was the 8th game I attempted to record. I don't want to, as easy as this game looked, I just want to sort of keep it real with everybody. I had If you're curious, I had 4 games where I basically didn't make it past that first onslaught of encounter cards. I did have one other win, but when I watched it back, I was ready to post it. I watched it back, and I made a really crucial rules error at one point, and it cascaded enough things that I didn't feel comfortable posting that. I had one game that was a good, really long loss. Might have misplayed it. Should have probably just posted that one because it was just a great game, but did not. And what did I say? Well, maybe this was my 7th attempt. Yeah, four early losses, 1 win with an asterisk, and 1 long loss. So, not saying by any means that this deck will beat Venom Goblin 100% of the time. This was actually my first game with Generation X in. I modified a card here or there at various points, and totally failed to realize that this card existed, being such a new card. So Generation X was an all-star there, and who's to say, maybe if I had it in some of those earlier games, maybe I would have had a higher win rate. So in any case, thanks for watching this if you made it all the way to the end here. And really sort of the crown jewel of my channel so far, being able to say that we beat Venom Goblin on Heroic. Going towards one of the themes of my channel, hoping to encourage more people to try out Heroic and not be shy about picking a matchup where even if the hero lines up really well against the scenario, you just bump that difficulty level up to Heroic and have yourself a really, really fun and dynamic game. So glad we got to show off a good game here. Thanks for watching, and whenever my next video is, we'll be diving into a new box, so stay tuned to see what that might be. Thanks again, and have a good one.